Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Laura Hastings. I'm a professor at Political Science and also head the Global Studies and Asian Studies undergraduate majors. I'm a moderator of today's session on behalf of the Atlanta Global Studies Center, the Center for Urban Language and Teaching and Research, the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies, our own Global Studies program, and the Study Abroad Office. I'd like to welcome you to Georgia State's Spring 2022 Global Career Series. This series features representatives from different kinds of globally connected organizations. And our hope is that they'll talk to you guys about the kinds of rewarding experiences that they can offer working in global spaces, either in Atlanta or abroad. Today's session is going to focus on international non-governmental organizations based in Atlanta. And we're delighted to bring you representatives from a number of different areas: the Latin American Association, the International Rescue Committee, the Japan America Society of Georgia, as well as Global Mission Awareness. I'd like for our panelists to introduce themselves briefly, and maybe we could start just a sentence or two of your name and what position you hold in your organization. I'll start with Catherine.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Warren. I am the Senior Operations Associate here at the Latin American Association. And I oversee all of our volunteers and interns that come through the building, as well as a couple of other things. But I'm so glad to be here with you all today.
Thank you. Iman.
Hello, I am Iman Abdur-Rahman, and I am the volunteer coordinator with the International Rescue Committee in Atlanta.
Thank you. Sophie.
Hello, my name's Sophie. I'm the program coordinator for the Japan America Society of Georgia.
And Joseph.
And there, I'm Joseph. I am an undergrad at Georgia State University, which has allowed me to intern with the Japan American Society. Thank you.
Yeah, and Zach?
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm a interdisciplinary global studies major and I've interned with all 4 of the major refugee resettlement agencies in Atlanta.
Thank you. And lastly but not least, Kayleigh.
Hey everyone, I'm Kayleigh Dahman. I'm also an interdisciplinary studies student here at GSU, and I am the executive administrator and program coordinator at Global Mission Awareness.
Well, thank you. We're really happy that you could all participate in today's panel. Before we continue, I just want to make sure we understand a few housekeeping items. First, the session is being recorded, and we do ask that you keep your mics muted to reduce any noise during the presentations. There will be about 20-25 minutes for question and answers after the panelists do their presentations. So I really want to encourage you to type your questions into that chat box at any time, and we will definitely have time to cover them. Now let's start learning a little bit more about these organizations. Shall we start with Catherine Warren? And Catherine, you're welcome to post a slide if you'd like to. Thanks.
Okay. Is it full screen for you guys?
It's just fine, yes.
Okay, perfect. So I know that a lot of you are interested in global careers or international careers. I myself majored in international affairs and anthropology, and I thought, like I wanted to have a huge career abroad. And I did some volunteering abroad after college, but ultimately I came back to Atlanta and wanted to figure out where I could fit into my own community. So I started volunteering as AmeriCorps Vista at the Latin American Association. And was able to get involved with my local Atlanta community, but then use the skills I learned both in university and as I volunteered abroad, mainly like my Spanish speaking and cultural awareness and understanding here in Atlanta. Just to plug for all of our organizations, Atlanta is a global city. It's definitely been like that since the '96 Olympics. The world really is at your fingertips in Atlanta. All the organizations represented here can connect you with opportunities that are connected to situations globally. I was just in a meeting with IRC this week, and we were talking about refugees coming from Afghanistan and the potential of refugees coming from Ukraine in the future. So don't think that you need to go super, super far away to make your place in the world and affect change in the world. So our mission at the Latin American Association is to empower Latinos to adapt, integrate, and thrive here in the state of Georgia, and our vision is opportunity for all. We are an organization that is uniquely positioned to serve the Latino community here in Georgia. Our staff, mostly all of us, are bilingual, English, Spanish. Some have a couple more languages in there. But we can, of course, serve anyone that walks through our doors. So we like to remind people that we're here for everyone. We have various departments that serve our community. So I like to say that the LAA is here for the whole family. So for the whole family, we can help with rent, access to food. Right now we're doing a food drive, a mini food drive from our food pantry. We have families lined up to pick up food, case management for those who are, maybe down on their luck and trying to get better, get a new job, that kind of thing, and staying with them for those 30, 60, 90-day check-ins as they transition out of maybe a not so good situation into a better one. We also do translations for documents, as well as offer affordable immigration legal services for victims of violence and general immigration services. So that's all of our family members that we serve, right? Specifically for seniors or grandparents, we have a weekly senior club, and it really warms my heart every week when I get to see them. They come, they have their cafecito, they'll have a little program. Last week they were doing Zumba, and it's really like one of those unique places in Atlanta where people that have come from all over find something in common. Maybe they've all been moved here to stay with their daughters or sons, and they're here and they can find community together as, grandparents that have moved here to help their families, that kind of thing. So we have that unique program here. With children, we help middle school and high school youth. We have a mentoring program. We're in a couple of different schools in DeKalb and Gwinnett County. We also do some one-on-one support with college applications. And then for parents or ages 18 and above, we do a little bit of advocacy work for children within school systems. So thinking of advocacy at the very grassroots local level, PTAs, going to talk to teachers and principals, that kind of thing. But then we can also help parents or adults over 18 with their resumes, applying for jobs, job training and workforce development. If any of you are seniors, we have a job fair coming up in April on the 21st, I think. So if you're bilingual, that's definitely an advantage that you could have attending one of our job fairs. I can't speak to all the jobs that they're offering right now, but something that you could definitely check out. We also offer English language classes, computer classes, entrepreneurship classes, and leadership classes for Latinas, so Latino women, as well as microloans for Latina entrepreneurs. That's the bare kind of minimum of what we do. So when you intern here, you work, you could work in any of these departments. When you volunteer here, you could work in any of these departments and learn a lot more about what we do and really kind of delve into, what it's like for someone to come to the US with papers, with no papers, to get a job, to figure out where they're going to live, that kind of thing. And you can practice your Spanish or practice your English, so it's something you can do in your own backyard. You don't have to go abroad to do it. You can really immerse yourself here in Atlanta over the summer during the semester. We've had several GSU students before intern with us, and we always love our GSU students. So, and this doesn't even touch the behind the scenes stuff. I once had a computer science major. Sorry, stop me.
We need to move on. And yes, but sorry. I'm sure you're going to get lots of questions from students.
Sorry.
That's all right. Iman, let's talk about the International Rescue Committee.
Sharing.
All righty, give me just one moment to share my screen. So the IRC, or the International Rescue Committee in Atlanta, is a refugee resettlement agency. So what is the IRC? The International Rescue Committee responds to the world's worst humanitarian crisis, helping to restore health, safety, education, economic well-being, and power to people devastated by conflict and disaster. It was founded in 1933 at the behest of Albert Einstein. The IRC is at work in over 40 countries and in 24 US cities, helping people to survive, reclaim control of their futures, and strengthen their communities. The IRC's locally funded office in Atlanta creates opportunities for refugees, immigrants to integrate and thrive in Georgia communities. We resettle over 500 refugees each year and serve an additional 3,400 refugees, immigrants, asylees in the state of Georgia with a diverse offering of services that ensure families are empowered to rebuild their lives and communities throughout the state. The IRC in Atlanta offers safe housing, necessities including healthcare and behavioral health services, multi-level English proficiency classes, occupational preparation and training, employment services, financial literacy, after school and summer enrichment programming for high school age youth, and immigration and legal services. So that is the very quick elevator pitch of what the IRC and the IRC in Atlanta specifically does.
Very interesting. What are the volunteer opportunities for students?
Oh yeah, so we have, give me just 1 second to stop sharing so you guys can see me. So we have many volunteer and intern opportunities. We really could not do the work we do without interns and volunteers. I would say traditionally pre-pandemic world, we had about 10 volunteers or interns to every 1 employee. So that can tell you just how much our work depends on our community and them supporting us in that way. So as the volunteer coordinator, I am a part of the resource development team because our volunteers and our interns really are a great resource. A lot of the times, especially college students come and they're hearing about the war in the Ukraine, they're hearing about the Afghans having to flee and come into the country, and they want to know, what can I do? And giving your time to organizations you believe in is something that you can do without having to write a check. Calling your senators, doing advocacy work, partnering with people you believe in, even, and I know it gets a bad rep, we're not just doing social media activism, but that is a part of it. So getting connected with organizations in your local communities that also work globally, I think is a great way for people of all ages and all financial means to be able to give and contribute. We have literally every one of our departments accepts volunteers and interns. And in just a moment, or before we're off this call, I will definitely put in the link to locate all of our intern opportunities, all of our volunteer opportunities, and even all of our job postings. As I'm sure most everyone is aware, we have had a influx in the number of people entering the country. So every single refugee resettlement agency in the country is working at capacity. So we're really trying to get back into leaning on our community to really give us that extra support that we need. But we are also hiring. We are also actively recruiting interns and volunteers.
Thank you so much. That was really awesome, Iman. Sophie.
All right, Joseph, do you have our slideshow ready to go? We're a team. All right, so we are the Japan America Society of Georgia. Right here is our mission statement. We are a nonprofit whose mission is to promote mutual understanding between the people of Japan and the state of Georgia. So Georgia does not have a largely visible Japanese population on the surface, but Japan is actually one of Georgia's biggest investors. There are a lot of big companies that are Japanese that are doing business in Georgia and are based here in Georgia. Could you go to the next slide, please? So we have events, and we are an organization that you can become a member of. Here are some of the things we offer. Language classes, our Japanese language classes are specifically oriented towards learning formal Japanese that you would use in business. And we have a lot of people who work at places like Honda and Mitsubishi who take our classes. We also offer networking events. Like on Tuesday, we have our Kayobi Kai, which means like Tuesday meeting, where everyone just has dinner and it's an opportunity to network and meet other people. We have a lot of business webinars about things like global things that are happening globally and more specific things. And then we have tiers for individual members, student members, that's our lowest, I believe, our best value. And then we also have plenty of corporate members. If you could go to the next slide, please. And if you would like to stay in touch with us, here's our website and our socials. I do a lot to update, try to keep everything up to date so you know what is coming up in the society.
Thank you so much, Sophie. That was really, I think we have 3 very different organizations. I think that was a very nice sort of visual of the different kinds of opportunities that students can have in Atlanta working in a global space. Before we get to student questions or audience questions, and I'd really like you guys to start thinking about what further questions you have for these folks, I want to reach out to the 3 students we have on this panel. Zach, you mentioned you volunteered with several different NGOs, all that work with refugee communities here in Atlanta. In your view, what skills and experiences do you bring to these jobs or that make you an effective volunteer?
Thank you for your question, Dr. Hastings. I actually started out as a volunteer with IRC, and that sort of set me on a trajectory that I'm on now. I ended up completing 2 internships with them, one in the first one being in the ESL department. And then, as Iman mentioned, they have a very diverse array of services that they offer, and I wanted to find out more about them. So I then completed an internship with the social work case management, and that sort of led me to do more. I did 2 other sort of case management internships. One was intensive case management, the other one being social adjustment, and then as well as completing another one in refugee housing. So I think just finding out about all the different positions and services that are offered within an organization, you might not think at first that you have the experience to do one, but there are so many other things that are offered that you might be tailored better to what you are capable of doing.
And can I push you to reveal a little bit about yourself? What did you bring to these jobs? I mean, you're who you are. What skills do you think you developed maybe in college or somewhere? Help us understand your background a little bit.
Right. So I think that I just have a hard sort of work ethic when I'm at work. And it especially helps when you find something you're passionate about. So I just want to let all the students know that there's so many different nonprofits out there. And to really just find one that speaks to you, I think will make all the difference. I've also spent several years abroad, so I speak a few languages. That's also been helpful. And just over the years, learning about and working different jobs, vocational training was also a thing that we did at IRC. Computer literacy, I know that us millennials and Gen Z are all fairly literate, and that can be very helpful as well. And just cultural competency and awareness of different cultures and backgrounds and that sort of thing.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can go to Joseph Clark, you are interning with the Japan America Council. Tell us a little bit how you found yourself. How did you land there?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, but thanks for asking. So I really had no idea anything about the society, but as I was trying to maintain diligency in studies, I'd approached the Japanese program coordinator here at GSU, and so she was very helpful in leading me in that direction. She brought it up to me and she told me about it, And once I read into the mission about, of course, a natural love for Japan and its culture, which I definitely possess, as well as cultural exchange, language exchange, and everything under the table, it was really something that I was all for doing. And so with their assistance, I was able to approach them. And so we kind of handshook on it and became part of my degree here. So I'm happy to be a part of it and participating in said events like that.
Well, I think I need to boast a little. What is your major?
I am an Asian studies major.
Oh,
Imagine, yeah.
Right. But thank you so much. And Kayleigh, again, I am interested in, you probably should tell us a little bit more about the organization that you work for, since we haven't talked about it. And then talk a little bit about what skills and experiences you bring to that position.
Sure. I have had a bit of an unusual journey as a student. So the organization I work for is called Global Mission Awareness. It is it's a religious nonprofit. And basically what that means is we act as a bridge between religious minority groups and other NGOs and governmental organizations. And an example of that would be we were partnered with the CDC in Pakistan with one of our programs where we helped connect the CDC with a local imam over the Bashahi Mosque to talk about the importance of social distancing, contact tracing, and following the health guidelines in Pakistan. And so that's a little bit what our organization does on a minor scale, but we operate in about 22 nations. When Iman said that they are at capacity, I think that's a great marker that you work for a nonprofit. We are always at capacity. That's just how it rolls. So 6 years ago, when I started at this organization, I actually started off as an intern. And my motivation was that I really wanted to help someone. Like I am purpose driven. I wanted to make sure that whatever I was putting my hand to was making a difference in the world. And at that time, I had already had the privilege of living abroad in Mozambique amongst the Makua people group, and learning more and more about cross-cultural relationships and how that's really so important. Even though I'm based in the US, how that's helped me in our programs in 22 nations. And so over 6 years, I've just managed to move my way up in the organization, and being entrusted to oversee the nations that all of our programs are in and all of our partners. It has been an amazing journey, but yep, we mostly work amongst Muslim people groups, Christian minority groups, Hindu minority groups, and we want to resource those minority groups with food, with resources, with education. So yes, we are always in need of help, but I think to answer the personal question, I'm just highly motivated by purpose, and I think that doing for others is one of the best things to do for yourself, and one of the most purposeful things to do.
Thank you. That was very interesting. I want to encourage folks. Some of you have put your cameras on, which is great to actually see real people in the group. But I'd also like you to put some questions in the chat group. We have Catherine, who seconded the idea that digital literacy that Zach brought up is key, and Joseph agrees. What do you think? What are some other skills, if I could ask, maybe go back to Catherine, if you were to ask a student, or if you were to, if you had two candidates who are interested in a volunteering for you, of course you'd take them both, but let's say you could only take one. What are you looking for in a resume that a student might present to you?
Sure. So I'm probably looking for, like, if I have two resumes in front of me and one person has a bunch of experience and the other one has no experience, I'm probably going to go with the person that has more experience, because I can see.
By experience, how do you define experience?
Okay, sure. So I could see that they've been involved heavily on campus in different student groups, maybe worked on a publication, or even participated in club sports. Like, I know you can commit yourself to something for some period of time. And then also like other extracurricular curricular activities, like maybe you're involved with your church on like a committee or council or in the choir, like again, like showing that commitment. even like if you guys had like that experience in high school too, like working on the paper, the yearbook, you know, because those skills that you learned working on the newspaper at school or the yearbook at school or playing a position on a team, like those are going to translate well to working in a workplace, whether it's teamwork, those kinds of like soft skills, communication, or if it's, you know, I know how to use Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, I can use Canva, I understand Instagram, like that you learned maybe on yearbook or in newspaper.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Sophie, I want to pose the next question to you. A student is, since I boasted that the students here were Asian studies and global studies, a student asks, I'm a health science professions major. And can I do anything in this global space?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know a lot about health science, but I mean, I can say my education is not in particularly anything global. Well, I guess it could be. My education is in art marketing with a concentration in photography. And what led me to the Japan America Society is that I like culture, and that's kind of where I pivoted from the art part, like, you know, art to culture. And I was interested in Japan, so I asked if there were any Japanese things around. So I think kind of what you have to do is take whatever your niche is and see how you can apply it. Because, you know, health is a thing all over the world. And if being global is something that you're interested in, you should find a way that you can make what you do fit.
Yeah, I think that's a real terrific reminder that what you major in as an undergraduate rarely has anything to do with what you end up doing for the rest of your life. It's really how you position yourself in that resume. As Catherine pointed out, there's so many other things besides your major that define you, and certainly health professions is very sought after. I think Kayleigh gave a particular example of working with the CDC. You know, they probably would have loved somebody who knew something about the health profession working with them. Another question that's come in, and maybe I'll ask Iman this, since the International Rescue Committee has a fairly, well, you all do, but I'll ask Iman, how rigorous are the volunteer and internship opportunities for your organization? And
for my organization, it most definitely is catered to the individual intern or volunteer, I would say. We do require a minimum of 15 hours a week commitment. However, we have some interns who move from other states and other countries even and say, I'm coming here for the next 3 months and I'll be with y'all from 9 to 5. And if they interviewed with the department and they made an arrangement with the program manager, they come in and they will move to the country. We've had it happen a few times and come to us from 9 to 5. But we also have every other type of student with every other life circumstance. And some people, 15 hours a week will be a very large commitment for an unpaid internship. And that is our minimum requirement. We do 15 hours and you commit to a semester. We do semester terms. So it will be spring, summer, or fall.
thank you. Catherine, do you have a different set here, or is it about the same?
Sure. No, I would say here at the Latin American Association, we don't have the rigorousness of the volunteer or internship position kind of depends on the individual person themselves. We could have someone come in if they want to just help us out with our phone lines. Like today we got 200 calls, half of those are going to our caseworkers. So like any extra hands, ears, eyes we can get in the building are super helpful in terms of answering phone lines or accepting walk-ins. So that's not super rigorous necessarily, but you can definitely get a lot of experience like within those couple of hours maybe that you could come and volunteer with us. A more formal internship is going to be a little bit more rigorous. You'll be assigned a project probably for the whole semester. And at the end of the semester, hopefully you'll walk away having completed something, or at least completed the first step of a bigger project. So I let my interns and volunteers kind of let me know how much they can give me.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I don't know, Sophie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, our internship is also pretty, it's whatever it is you can give us. But if you are able to give us a lot, and if we enjoy working with you, then we have opportunities down the line that we would call you in to help with.
Thank you. We have a question from Sadie, who's interested in working with environmental issues. And Sadie, I have to say, there are a lot of NGOs out there that work on environmental issues. It isn't one of the three that we chose for this particular session, but I would say everything we are saying, everything we're talking about today can translate to an environmental NGO. And I maybe get Zach give a minute to talk, because I know he has interests in environmental impacts of refugees. What could you say to a student who wants to know if there are any NGOs out there that work on the environment?
Yeah, so I would say that, for example, my background was mostly focused on refugees and displacement. But again, there's also people that are displaced through for environmental reasons. And so my skill set can translate towards that too. So I'm sort of working now towards maybe working with FEMA or other disaster relief agencies. And even, for example, one internship that I completed was with Inspiritus here in Atlanta, and they have a wide array of services, one of which being disaster relief. And so there's really, you can find organizations that you can use your knowledge for environment or whatever it might be, and sort of just tailor it to the job or internship that you're working towards.
Thank you. I noticed that Diana has uploaded an upcoming internship offer on sustainability. So Sadie, take a look at that in the chat session. And then Ms. Iman also gives a website for all their different internship opportunities. Just two other questions that have come up just for clarification. These internships are not restricted to undergraduates. In fact, I've often said that master's students are, given especially what Catherine said about a nice resume, it's oftentimes a graduate student who looks better on a resume. You can intern forever. So these options are not just available for undergraduates by any means. Having said that, though, I did also want to point out another question asked about course credit for internships. Most departments have formal internship classes, and global studies is no exception. Environmental studies, I know, also has an internship. And you have to work with the faculty in that department to decide what the criteria are that you have to follow in order to get credit. Each department sets its own internship rules. So by all means, reach out to your department and don't do an internship without getting credit if you don't want to. Okay. Sarah has a question for Kayleigh. Does working with NGOs on a regular basis create opportunities for even broader connections?
I would say absolutely. Absolutely. With the work that we do at Global Mission Awareness, we don't necessarily, it's not our offices, the way we're set up in the 22 nations that we work in. It's a partnership. We partner with other NGOs. And so there are invaluable connections with every single one of those NGOs and governmental organizations and all of the nations that we work with. And something in our office that we like to run by is we call it a relational model. So above all else, we love to nurture relationships. And so we spend our time building relationships with our partners, with these other organizations. And that really does open amazing doors for anyone on our staff or on our internship or volunteer team to travel and be a part of those organizations as well. And we've even seen it bridge even beyond that. Like that's like a stepping stone into an even greater opportunity. And it's, I don't always like to use the word networking. It's kind of what it is, just because it's not a relational word, but that's exactly what it is. Our mission statement is building a global family through love. Emphasis on global family. We seek to unify organizations around the world to meet the needs of minority groups, and we really need each other. And so, yes, there are opportunities. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Iman, I have a question about the last 2 years of COVID. Were students able to do internships remotely? How did your office handle internships in this sort of extreme situation?
Yes, so we never had a break in bringing on interns. As we said, interns and volunteers are crucial to the work that we do. We did, however, move to 100% remote work for our interns. And what that looked like was really having to, and I think as a world, definitely as a country, we have all pivoted to be able to be productive through Zoom meetings or through any other of the Teams databases or Slack, or however you're reaching out to your people. We were able to convey the information quite easily to our interns, but it was a hurdle for our clients and to be able to get them to receive services. So the bigger barrier for us through the pandemic was making sure we could give all of our services to our clients, with the digital divide being there with quite a few of them. Most all of our interns are undergraduates or graduate level students, so they were very willing and open and ready to make solutions. It was very much so this is the barrier and now it's time to pivot and progress. And I do believe that our interns had a big impact on coming up with solutions that worked for our clients and worked for our staff. We also have just transitioned this spring back to a hybrid intern model. So some of our interns are coming into the office while other of our interns are still working remotely. We do require as an organization that all of our volunteers and interns have proof of full vaccination. So if you are interested in interning with us, that is something that you should know. We do require full vaccination to be able to enter our offices.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. Catherine, I'll throw this next one at you. Not everyone can afford to take an unpaid internship. What other kinds of experiences do you recommend that can help students prepare for this larger global career?
Sure. So, like I said before, we offer some smaller volunteer hours. So I understand, 15, 20 hours a week can cut into work time. I've definitely had interns that have had to kind of pull back on their hours to go to work. Because unfortunately, we're not in a place right now where all of our internships offer pay. I'm pushing for it on my side of things, but I'm not the big boss yet. So I can't really pull all those strings quite yet. But if there are opportunities where you can volunteer, I would definitely get involved, volunteer, because that can help you pad your resume. And then also we still have some virtual volunteer opportunities as well. So that's a little bit more cost effective in that you can, volunteer and not spend money on gas. That saves you some time and money. And then I've also operated with remote volunteers throughout the pandemic, and I've had great work done by them. So I would be open to taking them going forward as well.
Yeah, and I'm reminded what you said earlier in the hour, where you said you're more likely to take someone that has experiences over someone that doesn't. And experience, as you defined it, is so broad. So many of these experiences, like you spoke of, translate to global competence. This notion of going to Georgia State University gives you a huge global competence because you have classmates who are coming from all over, and you learn to work with them, and that's a great skill that you can highlight in your resume. Mm-hmm. If I may, we have a question from an exchange student. And I have an answer, but I'd love to hear somebody else's response to this. She asks whether there's an internship opportunity for her just this semester, even though she's an international student. Can international students apply for your internships? Zach, you look like you want to say something.
I will, yes. I will just note that, because I've done several internships, that a lot of them have deadlines. And so it might be kind of hard to find one that you could do this semester, especially if they have a time requirement. Definitely volunteering though. You can do that anytime, and it looks just as good as an internship on a resume. And I will also say that sometimes with interning, finding internships, you have to be really tenacious, because a lot of times you'll have to send more than one email. You might have to call, you might have to go in, but don't give up, just keep trying. Yeah, but I would definitely recommend just looking to volunteer.
What Zach just said reminds me, Iman said that they are very, very busy and they have, there are lots of things going. I agree that sometimes this notion of an internship, it sounds like it's just going to be handed to you. You have to fight for it. You have to go and get it. And even though Iman does appear to be, her job is to be a volunteer coordinator, that's wonderful. She's overworked, and needs to be reminded that you are an interested and engaged applicant. So being pushy and pushing, as Zach said, can often be an important skill. I did want to just circle back to something else Zach said about volunteering versus internship. On a resume, there's no big difference here, okay? Don't make a big deal about you need an internship, you can't just volunteer. Those are the same things. One is a fancy word and the other one, sounds a little more humbling. But when you volunteer for your church, you're doing just as good work as if you interned for the State Department. So keep that in mind, that it isn't a very high barrier. Again, as Catherine said, doing a lot of, you do a little, and then more and more, and then you get the great job that you've always wanted. I have another question here. Actually, Kenneth, you started writing a question and I'm not seeing, maybe you asked me a question earlier. So Kenneth, you asked about, you've already graduated, are opportunities still available to me? Yes. Can these internships roll into international career options? Anyone want to tell a story where an internship may be translated into an international career option? Actually, Joseph, you're just doing an internship here. What are your international career goals?
That's correct. And I'm actually happy you brought this up because I saw Kenneth's question in the chat box and I took the opportunity to respond to them personally about it. Well, specifically in my case, with the Japan American Society, naturally as someone with an interest in Japan and culture. So one of the things that, at least interning with these, is that it's a shiny star on your resume, but for these programs that are specifically in the country of my interest, which is Japan, I have an opportunity to, just like anyone else, I have an opportunity to apply for the JET program. Tell
us what that is. What is the JET program?
So the JET program, which stands for Japan Exchange Teaching Program, it is a highly competitive program that is funded by the Japanese government, and it brings applicants from all over the world to teach English in Japan public schools. And in my case, again, if I choose, I have applied for the JET program. It just looks great. It looks great, but it also builds your experience and your exposure to the similar environment that to prepare you for that. So, and also having, again, in my example of the Japan American Society executive director, he can write a letter of recommendation, and recommendation letters go so far. And so absolutely, at least in the Japan American Society, there are lots of ways that this internship could definitely put you in international.
That's very nice. While you're talking, I'm thinking maybe Sophie could answer, but I'd actually have you answer this first. Looking back, what kind of training did the Japan-America Society provide you? Training. The word training sounds very, very mechanical, but what kind of, what skills did you learn?
Well, real quick, I'll touch on like the digital literacy thing again. Being active in social media, especially, is something I work very closely with, as well as promoting events and stuff. And so being able to expand and reach out to different networks and people who you've connected with, having training and exposure to these people can grow yourself as well as your organization you're interning for. And I'll be honest, in the beginning of my internship, which has just been a couple of months, it started out real slow. And so I felt that was the most of what I was working with. But we are now picking up speed, we have more events, we have exchange students from Japan. And so lately I've been heavily involved with them, and my training, I guess you could say, I have previous experience and exposure with Japanese people, and I speak the language, and interacting with them. It's been really helpful has been helpful for them and their study abroad experience, as well as the society. And it helps build that, because connects that bridge. And so having that experience has been really helpful and a growing opportunity for me.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's, oftentimes we think about skills and training as being hard, but in fact, a lot of these are soft skills. Considering all that's going on in the world today, do you think we need to spend some time trying to convince our audience here that students should prepare for global careers? And what does that look like? So what is a global career? What do you see? Sophie, when I say that, what do you imagine a student should be doing?
This is an interesting question to me, because I personally wasn't geared toward a global career, but I've kind of ended up in the space. To me, that would be like just being literate with other cultures. There are a lot of things that other cultures, like just ways that they think and ways that they do things, that I think you need to learn about and prepare for. Like, you can't just be, as an American, just go straight into Japan and, like, they don't shake hands, they bow. There's a lot of different things like that. I'm not sure if that was.
Yeah, no, I think that's what I'd love someone else to try to tackle that question. Again, why should a student prepare for a global career? Catherine?
I think that overall, the world has just become more and more global, more connected. And I honestly think, the fact that everyone probably on this call, maybe not everyone, but I imagine the majority of you are digital natives. And that's huge. That's basically another language, another competency to be able to understand how technology works. And that will take you far in life, whether it's, working with people from other cultures or working with people from different generations. So, and it leads to like the whole interconnectivity of the globe.
Yeah, and I think, in fact, you're all young on this call. I'm the old one here. I have found when I talk to employers, they don't realize how important it is to be globally competent yet. You've got it. Part of our job, part of the applicant's job, is to demonstrate to them the importance of this. So it really is it's where the younger generation really, not only digitally, but also culturally, knows more than the older generation, and really needs to take advantage of that to make sure that they realize that, you don't have this skill and therefore you need to hire me because I have it.
Well, and I also want to add, like, I think that the younger generations have already had kind of conversations with their peers and themselves about, anti-racism and facing issues that previous generations haven't faced. So I think that going forward, that's going to be the conversations that we're having, and like things that we're going to be reconciling with going forward, hopefully in the future. And I think you all are probably a lot more well-versed in that than some of the other generations, unfortunately. But I think it's a good opportunity to, build partnerships with those generations.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other discussion? What ways does your organization show its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion? That, Catherine, what you said made me realize that these kinds of more formal procedures are increasingly important. And maybe I'll ask that to Iman. This kind of
yes, so our organization does have a very strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you can literally, I wish I could bring our staff roster to you guys. We have about an official, it's diverse in the way actual diversity is, not in the way that people talk about diversity, especially like in corporate Western standards of diversity. The IRC, especially I can speak for my office, but really the IRC as a whole organization is very committed to equity, inclusion, and diversity. And again, you can tell by the people we hire. Many of our staff are formerly resettled refugees, and who better to do those services than people who have gone through the entire process. We also have, I would say, and this is a rough number, it's a rough number. This is me doing quick math in my head. I would say we have at least 30% of our staff are from religious minorities. We have, I think of the 60 employees we have, there are 34 languages spoken between all of the employees. So it's incredibly diverse. We have people from nations all over the world. And we also have native born and raised Atlantans like myself. So I think it is a very diverse organization in that it does not only say it, you can see it in its hiring practices. And you can also see it in simple ways like, I was in my department meeting just yesterday, and I let my my team members know that I'd be observing the month of Ramadan. So I would be fasting coming up throughout April. And my supervisor's response was, okay, so how can we support you? Do we need to move our team meetings that are normally in the afternoon to the morning? Will that be more conducive to your fast? Do you want to flex your time? I know some of our other colleagues, when they're fasting Ramadan, they would like to work 7:30 to 3:30 rather than 9 to 5. And we have floating holidays because we know not everyone celebrates the same holidays. So if you would like to use your floating holiday days off for Eid or for any day in Ramadan, just let us know. And so it's real practical ways with real policies and hiring practices that we see the IRC's commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity. And it is one of the reasons that I love working there.
And actually, Iman, I pointed out to you because I recall in working with your organization a few years ago, you required volunteers to go through training. So it's not just who you hire, it's how you train and how you teach and how you bring this practice to everybody who's in the office.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say the words, and it's even more important to practice them for sure. A last question from Olivia, which some of you have already done, so I'm not sure. I don't know who wants to answer this. She's asking, what are the projects that you're currently working on? But rather than that, because I think most of you talked about that, I would love to have some of you address this last part. How is a volunteer integrated into the organization? And I ask that because, that can be problematic, and it may be on the back of some folks' minds. So maybe have Catherine start, and then maybe Sophie add if you have something.
Could you repeat the question?
Oh, just how a volunteer is integrated into your organization.
Sure. So within the Latin American Association, we really bring in our volunteers to help out with every little thing. Before I was on this call, I had a volunteer with me sitting at reception because I'm covering reception today. It's a nonprofit. That's just kind of what happens. And, she was really learning about, she's English speaking and really learning about the culture differences and learning Spanish. So she was like, wow, I get to kind of hear the nuances of what like different words people are choosing to ask for what they want. Like, I don't learn this in my Spanish class, you know? So that's one way volunteers are integrated. I walked into our lunchroom and I saw, you know, one of our social work interns eating lunch with her supervisor. So I always, you know, try to take my interns out to lunch every now and then. So we really try to integrate everyone into the activities that we do as a staff and as an organization.
Thank you. Thank you. Sophie.
I was actually most excited to tell you about our current project.
Please.
And of course, any projects that we're working on are things that we have room for for volunteers to join into. Right now, we're working on the Peace Bell project, which is a bell from Japan. I think the bell's like 200 years old, and it ended up in America. And we are in contact with the with the town that the bell was originally from. And at the Carter Center, we are building a traditional Japanese bell tower to house the bell in. And that's been a really interesting project to work on, because we're communicating with Japan. Right now, we're negotiating like how to ship. So Japan has like prepared all of the pieces of the tower, and we're negotiating how to ship those over here, how to build them. There's a lot of fundraising and stuff like that. And, you know, like I, as program coordinator, have been able to help out with that project. So, you know, anyone who is in our organization, we have room for you to help to help out with our projects like that.
Well, that's really interesting. And I'm sorry I did overlook you because the other two folks did talk a little bit more about their projects. We have just run out of time. This is, we could go on for a lot longer, I'm sure. I want to thank all of you on this panel for sharing your time with us today, really telling us some wonderful opportunities at your organizations and giving the audience, I only can think of the German word right now, giving the audience the confidence and the will to move forward and try to find an opportunity for yourself that is meaningful. We really appreciate your valuable tips and advice. And thank you for participating in our Global Career Series. I want to thank our audience members, but also remind them that we have another session next Thursday on global commerce and trade. So if you're more of a business person, same time, same place. 3 different folks will be on board doing different things. If you haven't registered yet, make sure to use the link in the chat and you can register. And again, I'd like to thank all our helpers here, Atlanta Global Studies Center, the Center for Urban Language Teaching and Research, and of course the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies, and the Study Abroad Office for organizing this series. All the Global Career Series videos can be found on the YouTube channel, and I will post that in the chat session if you want to look on it. Although you've been here, you don't have to listen to it. Have a fantastic afternoon, and thank you all, guys. We hope to see you next week. Thank you, guys.